It's an unreleased Capcom NES game. No, it's not California Raisins. Hi there, I'm Roger the Retro Gaming Puppet, and this is Obscural Games. Welcome to part 2 of the Capcom Chronology. If you missed part 1, Joe talked about Trojan, one of the first home games Capcom ever developed internally. And since we're talking about the third generation of home consoles here this month, I'm talking about an NES game. An NES game from Capcom that's so obscure, it was never even released. Titan Warriors. Titan Warriors is a sequel to Capcom's very first video game, Vulgus. But rather than do an arcade sequel, Capcom was ready to release it directly to the home market on the NES, and seemingly in North America only. While we can find mentions of it in US magazines like this page from Electronic Game Player, the precursor to EGM, there's bupkis in Japanese as far as anyone knows. Now that doesn't rule out a release in Japan, of course, but the only evidence we have is for North America. And that's not totally unheard of. I mean, Strider on the NES was released only in this territory. The game was saved and the ROM dumped by Frank Cifaldi and the crew at Lost Levels, and the most sensible theory is that Titan Warriors was a casualty of Nintendo's draconian third-party agreements in North America. In 1988, the year this game was made, Nintendo only allowed each third party to publish 5 titles, and Capcom hit that number with their localization of Hudson's Mickey Mousecapade, 1943, Gunsmoke, Legendary Wings, and Bionic Commando. Not a bad lineup for the most part, though I think this one probably could have come out instead of Mickey Mousecapade. At any rate, rather than leave it for 1989, they appear to have just junked it. But it was salvaged, and now we can play it and see what's going on here. And, well, I'll be honest, it's not Capcom's best. Not their best NES game, not their best overhead shooter, not their best effort of 1988, but it's definitely not bad. It's also very obviously mostly, but not all the way finished, featuring some graphical glitches and a general lack of polish I'll get to later. So Titan Warriors sees you pilot your starfighter to 6 planets in our solar system en route to Neptune, where Vulgus has made its new home. Each stage has a land segment and a space segment for a total of 12 levels, each with a boss. The power-up system is a bit reminiscent of Hudson's Soldier series, but unfortunately, power-ups don't act as extra hits you can take. There are 2 main power-ups, L and R, which I assume stand for Laser and Ricochet. No, not him. The Laser is a powerful shot that goes straight ahead. The Ricochet goes at 45-degree angles and bounces off anything it touches, but part of the unfinishedness of this game is that the Ricochet doesn't quite seem to work. Its hitbox is really small, and it's hard to tell when you're doing damage with it, so I usually stick to the Laser. Secondary to those, you have these pods you can get, which add supplemental fire. You can use A to shoot the pods off for extra coverage. Hitting A a second time will make them stop where they are, and you can use them sort of like options in Gradius. A third press of the A button brings them back to you. Each power-up can be leveled as well, so the more L icons you get, for example, the more lasers you fire in front and behind. The pods will eventually fire lasers as well, and once fully powered, grabbing another power-up will make them spin around you. Though this is an example of that beta version lack of polish I mentioned earlier, as it doesn't always happen. The distribution of pickups also points to that, as sometimes a stage is loaded with one type and none of the other. You know, also I gotta say, the boss fights are pretty weak. It's unfortunate, but the bosses are almost entirely really easy. Again, like they just haven't been polished, which, well, they probably haven't, ain't I? Even the final boss, who I was able to take down on my first try. Many of them look super cool, and some even have fun gimmicks, like this one who's only visible when you're shooting him, but they mostly go down without much of a fight. Graphically, as you can see, the game looks pretty good, though not as excellent as what Capcom would go on to produce on the NES. I do really dig some of these skulls and space babies and whatnot, though.
From an audio perspective, it's a treat. The music was a high point for me, coming courtesy of Harumi Fujita, who also contributed to the soundtracks for 1943 Kai and Final Fight in the arcade, as well as Sweet Home, Strider, and Chip and Dale on the NES. And if you dig those tunes, you'll need to check this soundtrack out as well.
If you've played all the shooters on the platform and are thirsty for more, or you're just a huge Capcom fan like me, then you gotta check this one out. Boot it up in an emulator or load it up on your EverDrive and take it for a spin. And that does it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Roger the Retro Gaming Puppet, and I'll be back next month with an episode of 5 reasons for the Capcom Chronology. See you then!